This is, we've put mosquitoes in a vial to lay eggs for microinjection, and they've been in a vial, 10 to 15 mosquitoes in a vial for about half an hour now. So what we're going to do is now we're going to take them out of the vial. So they like to lay in the dark, and let's see what they did. So it might be a bit hard to see, but there's a lot of eggs, very white eggs, that have been laid in the on the filter paper. And what the eggs do is, as over time, they'll subsequently melanize, turning from white to eventually dark black. So anyway, they've been in there for half an hour, so now we need to take them out of the vial. So what we can do is you can release them back into a container or a cage where they can reside for a while. So typically how I do that is I just open the mesh and just let the majority of them get out themselves. Careful, there's no mosquitoes escaping outside. And if you've got a limited amount of mosquitoes, you can also reuse these mosquitoes, because not all of them will lay in that half an hour period. So as long as you don't have a oviposition substrate in there, they should still have eggs. And then what you need to do is you can just try and get the majority of them out by tapping the vial, which sometimes works. Sometimes doesn't. And then with an aspirator, you can just suck the majority out. So there's a finished egg paper. Can you see the eggs? Yeah. So I'll just do that for the remaining 3 vials, and then I'll put them on wet sponge. So now we're just going to remove the egg paper from the vial. So when the embryos are very young, they have to stay moist, basically, until they completely melanize, basically. So we'll just drag the egg paper out using tweezers or a spatula, and then what we want to do is just unfold this egg paper onto a wet sponge, which is soaked in distilled water. So just to keep them moist, basically. And then the eggs will slowly change colour, at which point we'll pick them off in the next step. Okay, so now we have all our oviposition papers with the eggs on top of them, and they're slowly starting to melanize now. So as I said, they're kept moist by this wet sponge, which is moistened with distilled water. And what we're going to do now is take this into the injection room and align the embryos in preparation for injection.
Okay, so right now I'm lining up the embryos of the Aedes aegypti. I'm lining 50 up from the piece of Whatman filter paper that they were laid on top of the wet sponge here, onto a piece of nitrocellulose paper, which will keep the moisture. As you can see, it's on top of the filter paper. The moisture from the filter paper will keep this wet, keeping the embryo wet. So basically all I'm doing is putting them by direction for the injector, so the injector can easily inject into the egg. It's the right area. So
so the posterior is lined up along the edge of the paper?
Yes. And 50 eggs. And one of the main important things about lining up these eggs is to have the right color. which is about mid to dark gray. Right now, as I look onto this filter paper, there's a lot of young eggs that are light gray and white. Those eggs haven't really melanized too much yet, but they probably will soon. So I'll line those up later, and I'm taking the darker ones right now and just putting them into a line of 50. So I've lined up 50 eggs on this piece of nitrocellulose paper. It's holding in the moisture right now, so I'm going to take it off the filter paper, put it onto a chem wipe, as so, and then to get some of the moisture out, I'm going to take a brush or any other long device and kind of just push down around the eggs to get some excess moisture out. Oops. As so. Then I'm going to take a slide, double-sided piece of tape, rip that off, put it right onto the 50 eggs on the tape side. Take the brush again, pat down on it to make sure that all the eggs are transferred between the nitrocellulose and the slide. And we'll just take it right off. As you can see, all the eggs are off and now they're on the slide. So now I'm going to put it under a microscope, the illuminator's down a bit, and zoom in all the way onto the eggs and watch for the faintest glimpse of a dimple on one of the eggs, which will indicate that they're starting to go through their desiccation. This usually takes about 30 seconds.
Like that?
Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, oh, cool.
That one's not cooperating.
The needle's not quite as sharp as I would like.
So here we're just going to go through the post-injection procedure, the way we handle the eggs after they've been injected. So after the injector has injected the eggs, the injected slide is placed into one of these slide boxes with distilled water, and basically, if you can see there, the embryos are covered in the halocarbon oil, and it's just left to drain off the slide. And the slides can be left up to 5 hours in this distilled water chamber, if you like. And after that time, the oil will slowly drain off. It's probably preferable to remove the oil within the 5-hour period. Anywhere from 1 to 2 hours is probably optimal. Yeah, so we're going to go through how we get the oil off in the next step. Okay, so now we're going to go through how we rescue the eggs out of the chamber. So we're just going to get some filter paper and we dampen the filter paper, basically, so it's nice and moist. And then what I like to do in a separate chamber is where we'll put the oily slide, just so the oil doesn't get onto there, which is our final chamber. So again, you just moisten it up. So we'll take our slide, which was injected a couple of hours ago. Okay, so now is the process where we're going to take the oil off the embryo, which basically you've got to keep the chem wipe moist, and you sort of drag the chem wipe over the eggs, making sure you don't dislodge too many eggs.
What's up? Can you maybe pulse the needle using the original? Just because I only did 4 needles, but we actually like
For body temperature or for...
he's loading it right
Okay.
now. For the zinc finger.
Okay. And you just continue on until you've got most of the oil off the embryos. So now we just want to remove the eggs from the tape. So with a very fine paintbrush, you can just sort of take the eggs off, and then you can sort of roll them around on the new filter paper till they're all off. There's a bit too much water in this one. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, the filter paper should be damp, but not dripping, basically. The one that you finally put the embryos into. So again, you just take them off and roll them on the paper, just to like wash the oil off. And that's about it. So after you've removed all the embryos, you just place the top on, and then that goes into the right storage temperature, which is usually room temperature, for about 2 days before then you ship them to the customer.